We're here in beautiful Malta and we meet interesting people like Vinay Gupta. How are you doing, Vinay?
I am a little tired. It's been a crazy day already, and it's only the first day.
I know. You at your talk, people are giving you compliments for it, so it was quite impressive.
Oh, I'm glad people liked it.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, was just really talking about the future of the blockchain, right? This whole notion of as an ecosystem, what are we building? And my suggestion is we're not building libertarian utopias. We're building a global system for managing carbon and other resources.
All right. So can you explain? Is it like this new decentralized economy, or?
Well, what I think is just this, right? If we're going to manage the carbon problem, we need to coordinate action between hundreds of millions of people, right? And what's the best technology we have for coordinating action at scale? That's the internet. But the internet needs a better way of handling material resources. So data, right? So we need data on things, and I think you could do a very nice job globally of capturing all of this information across hundreds of different software systems in a protocol that looked something like email or the web, but that was for manufacturing goods and for energy on some kind of carbon tracking basis. And I think blockchain is the best current technology for doing that.
And will you then create like a system that has no owner? I mean, email doesn't have really an owner.
I think that would be the ideal way of managing the world's carbon output. You want a system which is globally recognized, that works across all of these different technology platforms, but all playing the same game in terms of tracking the damn carbon.
And how does that work? I mean, how does it work practically? I mean, you have all these chains, you have all these different silos, even in blockchain.
Well, I mean, we figured out these problems for email, right? We figured out those problems for the web, right? We've got an enormous number of smart engineers. How hard can it be, right? It's not that different from any other interchain protocol. Why not?
What are the challenges? I mean,
I think it's largely a question of vision, right? The idea that you could have a global regime for tracking carbon and other toxic materials, you know, that global regime also gets you what you need for doing things like tracking allergens or, you know, goods which are not allowed to be imported into your country or any of these kind of things. They're all the same problem of how do we understand the material world using computers well enough to be able to change what happens.
So if you're gonna like combat the carbon problem, do you need to tokenize all these assets, or how does it work?
So I don't think it's a case of tokenizing. I think it's just a case of publishing, right? If you've got generic, trustworthy information in some kind of set of standard metadata formats, whether that information is being moved around over, you know, HTTP or a blockchain protocol or, you know, through an ERP system, doesn't change the fact that the information just needs to be written down somewhere. So to me, I think that this is much more a question of political will than technology, because all of these existing technologies could start publishing carbon information on goods, and then it's just a case of joining together all those sources of information into a global overview. And I think that's completely achievable.
Even with this political challenge, I mean, you still have all these stakes, you still have all these powers that are how can we break the wall? I mean,
so I think that the world is going to do that for us, right? I think that the weirdness of the weather events is going to continue to increase. The drought problems, the agricultural problems will continue to increase. People are beginning to take this stuff seriously. It'll be another 10 years probably before it becomes the world's #1 priority, and we'll have the technology ready by then to fully solve the problem.
And if we stuff all the data in blockchain, what's next? What will be the solution?
So eventually it's inevitable that we will start implementing carbon taxes. And I think the best way of doing this is a carbon tax tied to a basic income. So you tax the carbon like hell, you take all the money you make from the carbon tax, you split it up equally among all of your citizens, and then you give it back to them. So if you've got below average carbon emissions, you get paid, and if you've got above average carbon emissions, it costs you money. And this is known in the energy policy business as a fee bait, and we just implement fee baits on carbon consumption.
Yeah, I know in Europe you had this system of carbon tax, but it wasn't really a success. I mean,
no, it wasn't a success because nobody was scared enough to make it a success, and that's changing.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay, even the big companies. I mean,
no, they're going to be the last to change, but they're always the last to change.
So the governments are now in the forefront, or?
I think it's, at the forefront you have the activists, then you've got the progressive governments, then you've got the progressive corporations, then you've got the slow corporations, then you've got the slow governments, then you've got the evil companies who are out there fighting like hell to keep people from paying attention to the problem, and right at the very end of that you've got the people who are directly making their living causing the problem. But you only need a majority of people to change their mind for the world to change.
Right. What kind of role can Ethereum play in this transition, this climate or energy transition?
So there are lots of energy projects on Ethereum, right? Lots and lots and lots and lots of them. Tons of stuff from like Energy Web Foundation. There are lots of people doing carbon stuff on Ethereum, like Nori. Lots and lots of people are doing this kind of work. But I mean, Ethereum, until it gets scale, is still largely a prototyping venue. You're not going to run the global economy on Ethereum anytime soon. So for the climate stuff, this is largely proof of concept. We show that it can be done using technology. Only in the long run will we see what technology is used to scale it.
Right. And the scale. If we look at Ethereum, if we go a few steps back, if you look at the project of Ethereum, I mean, they're gearing up for the Serenity update and proof of stake and Casper and
yeah, it is. We'll see how it looks in a year, right? I mean, everything always takes a lot longer than you think.
Yeah.
So I'm eagerly awaiting. We'll see how it goes. They've been working on it for years. Let's see if it moves.
So we still have to be patient. I mean,
it was a miracle that any of these protocols worked at all, right? I mean, the Ethereum, after launch, it was probably 6 months before I began to feel like we'd actually shipped stable software. It was like, it's going to fall over. It's going to fall over. No, it's still there. Oh, it's going to fall over. It's going to, like the anxiety of like, did it work? It was 6 months before I stopped having that anxiety.
Right. What did you do in the Ethereum project actually? I mean, you were...
So I coordinated the launch. Right, okay. I pulled together some of the technical stuff, some of the communication stuff, some of the media stuff. I just generally kept everybody that was launching it pointed in the same direction. The releases, their pre-release stuff like Frontier and Homestead, I managed those releases. I named those. I basically sold the release project to all of our users. I was like, this is how it's going to be done. These are the pieces. This is what happens when, kind of batching and phasing, and really just organizing so that internally and externally everybody was on the same page about what software was going to be ready when, what it was going to do, and how we were going to literally coordinate. Right. My official title was Release Coordinator, but that was internal and external.
Cool. And so, what do you think of the future of Ethereum? I mean, if you look technology-wise, I mean, you still have this movement going on. Casper Labs and Vlad is doing Casper Labs, and Vitalik is moving in another direction. And
so with all these things, it's all wait and see, right? Everybody wants to make predictions, but my feeling about all of this is the software is so complex and the issues are so complicated. You don't get hurt by waiting and seeing, right? Let them ship. Let the code run. Let's see what's stable. Let's see what's fast. Let's see what's productive. Because I'm very against kind of like issues-based futurism, right? All these people that will tell you that Bitcoin will take over the world and it'll be worth $100 million. Like, okay, that's an opinion. Let's wait and see.
But is there like a philosophical split going on? I mean, Casper Labs is like a different entity.
It's the blockchain. There are always philosophical splits going on, right? But what happens in the good project is you have a philosophical split, then people write code, then people ship code, then after we see which way works, the stuff which didn't work so well merges into the stuff that did, and everybody continues together.
Oh yeah, do you think so?
Well, I mean, that's happened several times in Ethereum, is we've had very, very deep political divisions that just heal over because at the end of the day, the community is very strong and the platform works.
True. Yeah. I mean,
Bitcoiners are a bit more kind of tough about their splits. They're a bit more like, okay, you're evil, you split the wrong way, we hate you forever. The Ethereum community are a bit like, look, we're going to try it both ways. We'll see what sticks, but it's still Ethereum.
Yeah, okay. It's more unified, or?
I would say it's just kind of The forks tend to merge back in a way that in the Bitcoin world they don't tend to.
True.
So I think there's a stronger tendency towards reunification after this the yelling is done.
Okay.
Which is good. Keeps your project together, and to a large degree, that's Vitalik's moral influence. You know, in a way that Bitcoin doesn't really have somebody to go around and get things back together again.
True.
You know, Vitalik is very good at making sure that the smart people keep staying friends and working together.
Do you ever speak to him, or rare, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'll run into him now and again. You know, but I mean, he is super overextended all the time, and generally, I just don't want to get in the man's way. I saw him recently at a conference where I showed him this. So we're doing this project for William Shatner, who was the Star Trek's Captain Kirk, right? The original series, right? So you can see this thing. So it's a Captain Kirk figure from Shatner's personal collection, and it's kind of an example of a project that we're doing with Mr. Shatner to provide kind of authentication services for some of the memorabilia that he's associated with. And it's a really nice use case for Materium because it's a small enough volume of goods that it would run on main chain. The authentication is extremely airtight because we have video of him signing this thing, all of which is going to wind up in smart contracts, and it's all paired to insurance policies. So that model we're kind of demonstrating with his project, and I'm super excited to see where he goes with it because he's got some really great ideas about what he wants to do. So
we can, as a community, we can like invest in this collectible, or?
Well, so what we're building is an authentication framework for collectibles, right? So what Mr. Shatner wants to do is be able to take things that he signs, connect them to blockchain contracts and blockchain evidence systems, so that you know when you're buying something that he's got his mark on, that it's authentic and that it's his. Right, and that approach, once implemented, he wants to scale into all kinds of other areas that are inside of his network and inside of his reach. So I think you could see some very interesting things come out of that.
And it runs on the Materium network.
Well, Materium is an Ethereum project, right?
Okay.
So we write code and legal systems, legal constructs that run on top of Ethereum. So you know, this thing's blockchain identity will be on Ethereum main chain in probably about 2 weeks. We were hoping to have it launched for now, but you know, user interface bugs take a while, and you're always working out the detail. But yeah, we were hoping to have it done by now.
Cool. Very interesting stuff. So people can go to which website?
Materium.com/WSA.
Okay.
Mattereum. Materium.
Yeah.
Simple.
Last question it's a cheesy one, I must admit, but what are your top 3 pickings in the market right now?
So you can't go wrong with gold. That's all I'm gonna say. Yep.
Digital gold, or?
Oh no, I just like gold. Right, you know, I guarantee you, right, that if you do a proper portfolio analysis, nobody in the blockchain space owns enough gold. All these assets are hyper liquid, they're hyper volatile, you never know what's happening one day to the next. You cannot go wrong with having strong, stable things in your portfolio that never change.
True, okay. Thank you very much, Vinny, for your time. All the best. And
this is not investment advice.
Of course. No investment advice, guys. So thank you very much. Go to Materium.com.
Lovely. Take care.
Yes.